What if I told you there was a game for the PlayStation 1 that let you pit the Great Muta against Sting? How about Ken Shamrock versus William Regal? Bruiser Brody versus Mil Mascaras? Such a game does exist, and some of us were maybe too young at the time to realise that the game in question, WCW versus the World, was jam-packed with legends of the squared circle. Let's take a break from the normal Wrestling Bios series and take a look at WCW versus the World and its incredible roster. So a bit of backstory then. WCW vs. the World was developed by the Man Breeze, who would later be known as the Akai Corporation. WCW vs. the World was known as Virtual Pro Wrestling in Japan, and it's the very first game in the Virtual Pro Wrestling series. This series served as the basis for several WCW games published by THQ in the USA and European regions, including the WCW World Tour game and WCW Revenge on the Nintendo 64. Akai also developed the critically acclaimed WWF No Mercy on the N64, again based on their excellent Virtual Pro Wrestling engine. The Akai wrestling games really did flourish on the Nintendo 64, but they got their start on the PlayStation. I'm no fountain of knowledge when it comes to the Virtual Pro Wrestling series, however. Other content creators here on YouTube have done an excellent job of covering the entire series. WCW vs. the World then was the very first game in the Virtual Pro Wrestling series, released in North America in September of '96, and you can tell this while you are playing the game. Of course, your first thoughts here looking at the game is probably it looks dated, but back in '96 and early '97, this shit actually was pretty acceptable. To be honest, there are worse looking games out there, but it's hard to ignore these characters that look like they're made out of building blocks. It's a product of its time, and really, the next time you complain about how The Rock looks in WWE 2K20, take a moment to remember what us older fans had to put up with back in the day. And you know the best thing about it? We didn't really care. We had a WCW game here. That's all that mattered. Before we get into the gameplay, let's take a look at the roster, the modes and the overall presentation. When we boot up the game, we are shown this highlight reel of WCW action, which I must say is pretty awesome. We then get into the game modes here and you can see there's quite a selection. Unfortunately, we only have 1v1 matchups, but still, they tried to make up for it here with all these different game modes, from elimination matches to tournaments. There's a lot to do here. The League Challenge mode is your standard single player where you unlock all the bonus wrestlers. However, lucky you, they are already unlocked here for this video. So, the roster. This is where WCW vs. the World truly shines. In keeping with the game's theme, along with the WCW roster, there are a ton of other wrestlers here to choose from. Now, due to licensing issues, when the game made its way to North America and Europe, all the names had to be changed. However, we can work out who many of these guys are supposed to be, and of course, we also have the internet to help us out. Back then, when I owned this game as a kid, I was too young to know who half of these guys were, but I was able to work out a few. Back then, my focus was just on WWF and WCW wrestling, so growing older really helps me better appreciate the excellent roster selection here that this game truly has. I'm sure many of you guys will feel the same. Anyway, we have wrestlers here from WCW, All Japan Pro Wrestling, Pancrase, the UWF, Frontier Martial Arts, Wrestle and Romance, Michinoku Pro, and last but not least, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Let's take a look at the WCW guys first of all. We have Hulk Hogan, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Lex Luger, Sting, Ric Flair, Rick and Scott Steiner, Dean Malenko, William Regal, Masahiro Chono, Ultimo Dragon, this fucking dude who I have no clue why he is here, but this is Super Delphin from Michinoku Pro in New Japan. Let's now take a look at some of the more interesting additions to the roster outside of WCW. We have Jaguar here, who is actually the legendary Tiger Mask, Steel Talon, who is Antonio Inoki, Grizzly, what an amazing name, is none other than Bruiser Brody. Shanghai is better known as Karl Gotch. Major Tom is an interesting one, although the picture here looks nothing like him. This is actually Terry Funk, as you can see in game here. Le Masquerade is lucha legend Mil Mascaras, and here, hiding in the corner, we have Jeff Jarrett. Up hiding in the top corner is the Giant, who strangely looks more like Andre the Giant while playing the game. Black Ninja is the Great Suzuki. Black Belt is Taka Michinoku. Sherlock is the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, although you wouldn't know it from this picture. Definitely looks more like Disco Inferno. Billy Gaijin is Scott Norton. Thunderdome is Baz Rutten. David Harley here is Sabu. Abispa, not sure, but this is Jushin Thunder Liger. The Count is Mr. Stan Hansen. Samoa is Giant Baba. Bear Breath is Gary Albright. Siberia is Dr. Death Steve Williams. Samsung is Kenta Kobashi. Bad Blood is the Great Muta. Bolt Jameson is the Power Warrior. Overdose is Road Warrior Hawk. And finally we have the Turk, who is none other than the Dynamite Kid. There's more here, but I think these are the most interesting additions for sure. What a roster. So getting into the gameplay here, and yeah, you can really tell that this is a very early Akai wrestling game, bare bones and missing a lot of features. Some of the characters' faces look, well, scary, and the characters' bodies look like the Michelin Man. You have a spirit meter down here at the bottom, and doing damage to your opponent while changing the variety of your moves will make the spirit meter turn white. Once it begins flashing, you can pull off a finisher. Most finishers here are accurate, and some, well, they aren't so accurate, but give them the benefit of the doubt here. There's a ton of superstars to cater for here, and along with this, Akai greatly improved in this area in their Nintendo 64 releases. The game features the classic Akai method of holding the grapple button down longer to do stronger moves. However, the same isn't true for strikes. Instead, pressing R2 will perform a strong strike. You have around 14 different grapple moves you can perform depending on how long you hold down the button, the direction you press while holding the button, and the physical state of your opponent, which, to be fair, isn't that bad for an early game like this. Reversals are performed, I think, by pressing the square and X buttons together at the correct time, but to be honest, mashing both buttons gives the same effect. Wrestlers also have varying moves depending on their weight and real life wrestling style, so a light heavyweight like Tiger Mask will have more aerial offense, while William Regal can do more technical takedowns, for example. Matches here can be fun, but what lets WCW vs the World down, in my opinion, is after you've played around with the different weights and wrestlers' styles, there isn't that much to come back to. The later Akai games felt like every match was a new epic encounter, whereas things get a little samey here with WCW vs the World. It's a shame too, as the roster is just so good. You have the ability to make some incredible dream matches here, but when all those dream matches start playing out in the same way, yeah, it can get a little repetitive. The game also feels a little slow, which is something I don't recall when I played this as a kid, but this is probably down to the Akai N64 games delivering a quicker paced wrestling game. WCW vs the World is also quite strict when it comes to wrestler positioning. You will throw a lot of punches and kicks that don't connect due to not being close enough to your opponent. Close enough meaning you gotta be nose to nose sometimes. Playing it now, it's more fun looking through the roster and checking out the attires. It's just interesting to see how developers made these early character models. But again, after the 5th or 6th match, you just feel like putting on WCW Revenge or No Mercy. You can't help but think, man, if I was playing No Mercy right now, I'd be able to do this or I'd be able to do that. The game though does bring back good memories for me. There was one Christmas where my parents got me this game, WWF in Your House, and Power Move Pro Wrestling. I played all 3 of those games to death, and each one did offer something different, which we really can't say about today's wrestling game offerings. I loved playing Power Move Pro Wrestling as I could record full match replays onto a memory card, so I try to have these epic encounters with my main man here, Area 51. Quick side note, Power Move Pro Wrestling was actually a localized New Japan game. Then I'd play WCW versus the World because I was so into WCW Nitro at the time, and I was also a big Chris Benoit fan, so he was always my go-to guy. Then there was In Your House, which to be fair was just totally mental. Some good variety here, and of course later on WWF Warzone would come out on the PlayStation. My friend had an N64, I didn't, and he also got the WCW World Tour and WCW Revenge games when they came out. Seeing WCW Revenge made me pester my parents for an N64, but I had to wait on that one. But anyway, yeah, that's WCW versus the World, a nostalgic trip down memory lane for me personally, and today I do have much more appreciation for the included roster. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be back to the normal Wrestling Bio series with the next upload.